You can please do not attempt to retrieve it.
Ano yung sa kuan, wild animal. Ano kami sa mga igsoon.
Turn off ang kuan din. Turn off ang AC.
Make sure you maintain a safe distance between you and the car in front of you. But also keep in mind to keep up with the caravan to help keep our tour on time.
But you're gonna have bugs.
Please always follow the car in front of you and stay on the designated route.
Is it
If
drying
it's
down?
some uneven road edges,
It didn't say all the
be
way.
sure to keep your car placed in the center of the road.
You
at
said to
all times.
enjoy the smell.
If you need assistance,
Biscuit! Mika, roll down your window. You will roll down your window. I need you. So they can
Ano ba akong kuan di ay?
thank you for joining us and enjoy your tour.
I didn't lock the. It's not locked. You can roll it down herself.
My child is my child.
Kaya baba nila.
Papa, panggahin na sa paba. So that you can take up this picture.
Me too. I want to put mask. Everyone's all putting mask.
Why?
All the mask.
You wanna put mask to steam?
Mas serious imong anak ko. Ano gamay oh.
Who's wearing a mask? Everybody in the house? Inside of the car? Why?
You open the
I don't think it's thick, Dad. That's big. Ang
hole.
Oh.
Alrighty, friends. Hello. My name is Caitlin. I'm up here in this
Hello.
canopy at the very front, waving to you right now. I am going to be your wild drive tour guide for our wild drive today.
Pilo mo nimo.
Turned out to be a pretty nice day. Now our free roam area is about 435 acres of free roam area, as the name suggests, which basically just means that the animals that we have there can go wherever they want inside those
Yun
habitats.
na mas rube.
That means that it's always a toss-up of who we're going to see and where we're going to see them. However, I have some pretty sharp eyes that are good for checking out animals and seeing where they might be inside those habitats, and I'm sure some of you do as well. It's going to be a team effort today to find all of those animals who might be hiding out there, and hopefully not all of them are hiding, and we're actually able to see some without me having to put them to the
Dagan kay manuaw silang paryente dire. Oo, ara linya sa mga
We'll head out in
tenda
a
no.
couple minutes.
Daghan.
I am going to have to go over just a few safety rules on our way
Ano
down
sila?
there.
Manuaw silang mga
Rules of
igsoon.
the road, but I promise you, as soon as we get into free roam, it's going to be nothing but fun and animals. And who are we expecting to see out there? Well, we have 7 species of hoofstock mammals. They're called ungulates, and they're in 2 different families. So in our cow family, we might see our mountain goats, our bighorn sheep, and our bison. And in our deer family, we'll be keeping an eye out for our Colombian black-tailed deer, our caribou, our Roosevelt elk, and our moose. And we have one moose out there right now. Her name is Aspen. She's a toughie to spot, so we'll have to get real lucky to be able to find her. We'll talk a little bit about how each of the animals, what adaptations that they have to live in their specific habitats. And we'll be traveling through 3 types of prime Pacific Northwest habitat today. We'll be going through forests, meadows, or grasslands, and wetlands. Now those are 3 types of ecosystems that you'd find all over the Pacific Northwest here. And these animals that we're going to see are ones that you could find in those Pacific Northwest ecosystems as well. So one of those things that is unique about Northwest Trek is that all of these animals are native to the Northwest and
So
specifically
wild.
to Washington State.
Mountain.
Yes, even the bison, the range did once extend into eastern Washington. I am just waiting on the all clear to head out, so we should be getting going shortly. I encourage everybody to turn their cars on if you haven't already. And if I could get a thumbs up just for myself to make sure that everybody can hear me out the window. Perfect. Thank you. Alrighty, it's time to start making our way out of here. We did just get all clear, so it'll be nice and slow until everybody's moving together. Hope everybody had a fun 4th of July yesterday. I'm certainly still trying to recover from it. I'm a little tired today, but I'm happy to be here. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about some rules. I know they're not fun stuff. On our way down there and while we're in free roam, it's going to be really important that we stick nice and close to each other. I mean, no no more than half a compact car length to maybe max a full compact car length in between you and the car in front of you. It's going to be important while we're up here because we don't want any other cars accidentally joining our caravan. They want to be tuned into our radio station and wouldn't know what's going on for the duration of this hour-long tour and free roam. That means we're also going to drive right on through the stop sign that you'll see here. I know it's kind of weird to ignore, but we do have the right-of-way there. And other drivers will yield to us.
And then they might come join us. No, they can't join us.
All right, now not only are we going to be sticking nice and close together up here, the same goes for with the animals in free roam. Because we have some troublemakers out there. Our mountain goats, sometimes our bison, our caribou. If they're in the mood to cause that trouble and they see an opening in between cars, they'll dart right in front of you and not move. And while a caribou traffic jam is certainly a fun story to tell later, it does prevent us from spending time with the animals that might be later on down the road in our tour. And I really want to make sure that we have maximum time to see and learn about all of the animals that we can that will show themselves to us out there. Now the best way truly to experience free roam is to have those windows down, even those sunroofs or moonroofs open. We just can't have anybody or anything hanging out of them at any point. So that means head, shoulders, knees, toes, small children, all needs to stay inside the vehicle at all times. This is just for your safety and the animals. We don't want to accidentally have to, or we don't want to have to step on the brakes real hard and a kid to go flying out the window because they're hanging out. So that's just in everybody's best interest, I promise you. Same goes for food. It's your personal vehicle. Of course, you can eat whatever you want. If you're feeling snackish, maybe having a late lunch, go ahead and feel free to do that. But we will not be feeding the animals on our tour today. They're all herbivores, and so they're on specialized diets provided by nature and supplemented by our keepers. So a turkey sandwich or some beef jerky is not going to bode too well for their digestive system, and our keepers wouldn't know what made them so sick.
I give them durian.
Alright, pretty soon here after this 15-mile-an-hour sign, we're going to take a right. So everybody just follow
I
the
don't want to
leader.
be bad, Mom.
What we'll do while we're in free roam as well, there's some twists and turns. So as long as everybody's following the car in front of them, eventually everybody's following me, and we should all be just fine. Now obviously we're taking pictures, I'm sure, with cameras or phones. We do understand that accidents sometimes happen. Sometimes a toy or a piece of trash or a phone falls out of the car. It happens. We just ask that you do not stop the vehicle to get that yourself at any point. We do have my friend Micah following us, bringing up the caboose of the tour. He's in that wrapped Prius all the way at the back. And not only is he acting as our lifeguard, making sure that we're all being safe and that the animals are being safe, but he'll also be scanning that roadside for dropped items. So if something does fall out, especially if it's something that you want returned, just go ahead and make your way back to the parking lot that we began our adventure in today. We should have that item for you there. Worst comes to worst, you can also dial that 360 number listed at the top of your confirmation ticket or receipt. That'll get you in touch with our front office. You can just dial 0 once the recording starts playing. That'll take you to a real life person. That's also good for if there's an emergency during the tour and you're not able to get the attention of me up here in the front or Micah in the back. You can dial that 360 number and they'll be able to get in contact with me and or Micah via our radios. One of the last things we got to talk about, this is a no stopping tour, I guess, besides while I'm waiting for the gates to open. But once we're in free roam, we're not going to be stopping those wheels. This is because all of those animals are herbivores, and most herbivores are prey species, which means that they have extra special adaptations and behaviors to stay cautious, and it can seem dangerous to them when we stop our big old vehicles right next to them. It kind of is a spook factor. They tend to run away, and we want everybody in the back of the tour to have the same chance at viewing those animals as those people in the front. So that's why when we are by those animals, I'll slow down to 1 or 2 miles an hour max. Take it nice and slow. I'll do that for everybody, so everybody has the same chance to view those animals. We just don't want to stop those tires.
It smells like throw up. I think that's the stinky soil. The poop. Here, that's a poop. Sting.
All right, so that first gate brought us down here into our maintenance yard. You can see one of our all new, brand
Are you
new,
okay?
whatever,
You crying?
electric trams underneath the roof of that bus barn there. It's the green and tan one. We're still
Why you look so sad?
waiting on a few to be shipped from Portugal.
Why you look so sad?
But once we get those here, we're expecting to debut those trams sometime between this fall and next spring.
What's that?
Now the
I
second
get
gate
scared.
we're going through, you're going to cross a cattle guard. You probably heard those bumps over my radio. It's just an extra protective measure for our hoof stock. They don't really like the feeling of walking over it. So it helps prevent our bison from paying a surprise visit to our maintenance friends there in the maintenance yard.
Oh.
Once you're over that cattle guard and through the second gate, you're officially in our free roam area, and the animals could be anywhere.
But there, Mom.
I'm keeping a sharp eye out, but I want you to do the same. And not only are we going to use our sense of sight, we're also going to use our sense of smell and definitely our sense of sounds. Because as predators, humans have forward-facing eyes and other adaptations that are similar to wolves and lynx and bobcats and other big predators like that, like bears. So we have a really good sense of depth perception, which means that we're movement, but we're not always going to
Why are you laughing?
things sitting in grass.
It's just
Like maybe a bedded down deer.
Must walk in the
That's why
house.
it's going to be really important to use those other senses as well. Maybe you just hear a twig
What
snap.
happened to the trees when they all touched down?
Maybe you just notice the flick of an ear or a tail, and that alerts you to their presence as well. So definitely keep an eye out, and if you do see an animal, especially one that I didn't point out or one that's kind of a tricky spot, you're welcome to break one of my rules. You can go ahead and do a gentle finger point out the window just like that. Bring your arm back in, but that'll help the cars behind you spot that animal. I'm not seeing anybody in this first habitat that we're driving through, a forest.
Oh my god.
That doesn't mean that there's no animals around us, though. I'm sure there's probably plenty of Colombian black-tailed deer bedded down in these tall shrubs around here. Even if there's not, there's plenty of bonus animals. I can hear them all around us. Now, bonus animals are ones that we don't keep here at Trek. We don't feed them or manage their populations. They just choose to be here all on their own. They can come when they want and leave when they want. Those are going to be animals like robins and Canada geese and crows and ravens and butterflies and bats and bees and all sorts of amphibian species, raccoons, muskrat. There's fish in Horseshoe Lake. So all types of animals make their homes here, which is why we have such a great, diverse few habitats. Coming up to this tee, you're going to see a sneak peek into one of our other habitats, one of our meadows. And not to worry, we will be looping through that meadow here in another 35-40 minutes. So if there's any animals out there to see, we certainly will.
I also didn't want people to bring their...
As you're still driving through that forest, you might have taken a peek onto your right side through the trees and there's the big old body of water. We're going to be coming up right alongside the banks of that body of water here in just a second. Now, this is what we call Horseshoe Lake, and it's the largest water body that we have here at Northwest Trek on our property. It's what we call a continuous wetland, which means that there's water in this lake year-round. Of course, both for our animals and for those bonus animals. That's so named because it's shaped like a U or a horseshoe. And you're going to notice a human habitat out there, a human home on the lake there. That was actually the previous home of our park benefactors, Dr. David and Connie Hellier. Now, they came out here in the 1930s looking for a little bit of land to escape from the city life of Tacoma. And David was a practicing pediatrician, and him and his wife wanted a little break from the city to enjoy some nature. They found the 100 acres surrounding Horseshoe Lake and fell in love. They bought it from a logging company in 1937 for $450, 100 acres. That's very cheap, even back then. It's because this land was pretty much bare. At most, it was like maybe a Christmas tree farm. Oh, and I'm seeing a caribou out there on the lake. He is just across the lake from that house, so on the shores that we're passing right now. And he's waded in just a little bit and taken a drink of that water.
Caribou!
You can see it's a wonderful water source and very accessible for all of those animals. I could tell that's a male because he has a pretty big rack. Now, caribou are the one exception to the rule in the deer family that only males will grow antlers. Actually, about 40 to 60% of female caribou will grow antlers as well. Scientists aren't really sure why.
And when somebody's like eager, like come on and grab the mushroom.
But the caribou at Northwest Trek are special. The females are at least, because all of them grow antlers.
Isn't it the same one that we rode?
But I still can't tell that's a male because the female antlers are going to be a little more stumpy and stunted. They're not going to get nearly as big as the males. And then out to the left there, I'm seeing a black-tailed deer.
Tay dakog lang ano
I
na to
was able
gatang.
to detect its presence by the movement of those ears and tails.
Where?
Now it looks pretty small. I'm wondering if that's one of our fawns. We have 6 or 7
isa tuod.
baby deer right now. But I'm not sure if that's just a doe that's bedded down or if it's a fawn that's standing up waiting for his or her mom to come back.
Oh, she has sharp eyes.
Now, Doc and Connie probably didn't see all this wildlife at first because not only had it been logged very extensively, there was a big brush fire that swept through this entire area in 1924, kind of in the midst of all that logging, and basically cleared what hadn't already been cut down.
There's nothing.
So the Helliers were making their way out here less than 10 decades after 2 major disturbances to the landscape. However, they did see the potential in this land. They loved it out here. They bought about 100 acres. And over the years, they raised their 3 daughters out here on this property.
They have a different
They spent about half their time in Tacoma, about half their time here. They really loved it out here. They saw that life kind of gradually return to the land. They had a cattle ranch out here, which is why these 2 meadows are cleared out that we're going to see today. They were cleared out for their cows. And hopefully we'll see that they're providing a great food resource for some of our other cattle family members, some of the wild ones. But anyways, when property developers later approached them about buying their land and turning it into a neighborhood or an apartment complex, they really didn't think that that was kind of the best purpose for this land. And they wanted to share their passion for wildlife that they had gained over the last few decades. So they started looking for somewhere to donate their land to.
Oh, the rock. Right there.
Really share that vision with them. We're seeing a male bison over there to my left, and he's lying in one of our wallows. We'll talk a little bit about what that wallow does for the ecosystem in just a minute.
What is he doing?
Now, lucky for us, the Helliers eventually found Metro Parks Tacoma, donated the 500 acres that they had acquired at that point to us. And kind of the rest is history. That was in 1971. 4 years later, 1975, Northwest Trek opened its doors for the first time. Okay, so I'm seeing that bison on the left. We're done with the Hellier story. That's just about it. We're very thankful to them. Obviously, none of this would exist without them. They did continue to live out their life on the lake there. But if that wasn't a fawn that we saw in the field earlier, there is definitely a fawn. There's 2 off to our right. I thought that was a mama and her baby, but no, those are 2 fawns. They both have spots on them. One might just be a little bit older. Oh, that's super cool. I wonder where mama is.
Kuha mo na tanan diha og di makuha.
You guys so noisy. And you don't even edit this video.
We have a lot of fawns out. We actually have a few sets of twins as well. So I'm guessing that's one of the sets of twins. Maybe that deer in the grass just before the bison.
I don't know how to eat it. That's right. I don't know how to eat it.
All on their own for now.
It looks nice. With all these trees.
Now those spots actually help them camouflage into their environment when they're really little. And in the few days and weeks after they're born, mom will actually leave them right where they are. And that's because they don't have a scent when they're freshly born, which means that predators aren't as attracted to them. So if mom did a good job at hiding them, there's no reason why a predator should happen upon them. So it's kind of an avoidance mechanism from predation. That's why if you ever do see a baby deer fawn bedded down by itself, you don't see mom around, don't touch the fawn. Just leave it alone. The mom is more than likely coming back for her baby. She's just off getting food to share. Same goes for baby birds as well. Of course, if you do have any concerns, it's always a great idea to contact your local wildlife agency. But for the most part, you leave babies alone.
Yeah.
What a great spot, though. Now, black-tailed deer as prey species have that camouflage adaptation. They have it when they're older too, as adults. Their fur, their coat of hair will actually change color depending on the season. So right now those adults are kind of a tannish brown, and then in the winter time they'll change that coat color to be kind of more of a silvery gray color. And I see some cars stopped back there. Let's make sure that we're keeping those tires rolling like we talked about. We are going to get another chance to see that bison as we loop back around.
She can see.
I'm going to slow down and wait until everybody's caught up again.
Was it done?
Now the bison that we're seeing, he is a male, I can tell because of his size, because of the shape of his horns. They're pointing straight up in the air instead of curving back into his head like a female's would. But I can also tell by his behavior. He's all alone. He's not hanging out with the rest of the herd.
Yeah,
Because he's exhibiting what we call bachelor behavior. So he's alone, but he's not lonely. This is actually something that he's doing to reduce competition for resources, which are limited in any natural ecosystem, especially for animals of that size. He's somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 pounds.
Wow.
And if he had to share his space, his food, with another 2,000 to 3,000 pound male, he'd get less. And it's really important for him to eat as much as he can and really save on energy during the summertime so that he can bulk up and get looking his best for the rut, or the breeding season, which is coming up for them in August. At that point, that's when he'll begin trying to impress the females, sparring with other males. And he'll really need his strength for that. Now that time away from the rest of the herd is also a good time for him to recover from any wounds that he might have sustained from the previous year's rut.
Look that tree.
It does get a little bit crazy with all the males fighting and rutting out here in fall. But the bison are generally the first to start. The elk and the deer will go later, and then the bighorn sheep are usually the last to rut. They go into rut usually late November, early December. So it kind of goes from the biggest animals to the smallest, but in general, all that rutting happens during fall. Now that's also one of the reasons that bison males will retain that cape of fur right around their neck and shoulders. You might notice that they're shedding that winter fur, but only males will have that coat of hair hanging down off them year round. That's also a defense mechanism to help sustain or to help prevent them from sustaining any serious injuries to the chest area while fighting those other males. Because those horns might not have looked hit from so far away, but they're pretty sharp and pointy, and with 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of force behind that head, they can do some damage, which is super important when they're going to protect their herd from predators. Which is the main function of males, and also why those horns are so pointy. Now female bison, on the other hand, their horns are going to curve more in towards their head because they play a little bit of a different role in their herd. They're mostly responsible for raising the young bison, raising the next generation. And as they're poking and prodding and taking care of their babies, they don't want to accidentally poke them like they probably would if their horns were shaped like a male's. But bison are native to those meadow habitats and once spread pretty much all across North America. We'll get back to the bison in just a little bit. I want to talk some more about the forest environment, the forest habitat that we're in right now. And just as kind of a side note, if you have people in your on the passenger side of your car in your passenger seat, encourage them to take a glance every so often up this hill to our right. I'm kind of a low car and I'm on the left side of the vehicle, so it's kind of tough for me to see all the way up that ridge on our right. That's oftentimes a really great place that some deer or some mountain goats, some bighorn sheep will be looking down on us, watching our tour go by, making sure we're not a threat to them, which of course we are not. But honestly, we want them to feel safe and respected in their environment as well.
I thought that one I saw right.
I'm going to speed up just a tad. I'm not seeing anybody right now. I of course will slow down once we see more animals. You can notice that this forest is looking a little bit different from that first one that we began our journey in. we definitely see the Doug firs out here, but we're also seeing a lot of western red cedars. And those are the trees with the dark green needle canopy that hangs really low to the ground compared to the Doug firs.
Yeah, there is.
And they're also the ones that don't really have that much grown at the base of them. And that's because that canopy of dark green needles is just so thick that not very much sunlight can penetrate down to the base of those tree trunks. That means that not very many plants are growing down there because plants need sunlight to grow and photosynthesize. Oh, I'm seeing our mountain goat.
Where?
A mountain goat.
Where?
I think that is one of our billies. Okay, so he is going to be up the hill to my right, to our right.
Oh,
He's
right
kind of bedded
there.
down on a little ledge just behind a tree. You'll notice a big white splotch.
My
I don't know,
went kabubu.
20 or 30 feet up the hill, not even.
Tanaw, imong kwan pa, imong kamera.
He's just
And-
all by
and
himself.
manintin na, ma.
He's kind of doing a similar thing to the bison male that we
Makita
saw
ka na
up
siya
in the
na
background.
ako. Mo niya ano
He's hiding, I think.
ko na makuha nung di na makuha.
Yeah, he's hiding.
And we have two billy goats, two males. That's one of them. I don't know where the other is. Once in a while we'll see them together. Once in a while they'll be apart. It just kind of depends on the day.
Yeah, he's hiding.
Wala daw.
He's gonna be
Wala
up to the
daw
right,
animal.
kind of just
Right
before we
there.
get out of the forest.
Uwak.
Ang uwak na nakita na ako, biskot.
I was keeping a careful eye up there. I gotta keep doing
Bird.
that. I've seen a lot of animals up there lately that I probably wouldn't have spotted
May pang
otherwise.
uwak. Ito tapos mo. Laughing? I know he's right
That's
there.
pretty
You know
tough
he's
to
not
tell.
following
He's
this car.
Hard to see to begin with, but
The uwak.
kind of tough to notice some of those
I
special
think he's telling
adaptations
the
or
animals
traits
to
that he
hide.
has to survive in those
Biskot.
high altitude mountainous ecosystems from far away.
Keep following it.
However, we can obviously see that he has that nice thick white coat. Now, those hairs are actually not white. They're clear, but they appear to us to be white just because they're trapping that light that's reflecting. In
It's
those
such
hairs.
an open.
And those hairs are also hollow, which is a really great sorry, I had a bug in here. A really great use for trapping heat really close to the skin, which is especially important in wintertime when they're hunkered down in a blizzard or a rainstorm or whatever kinds of crazy weather that they encounter way up high in the Cascades. Now those hairs are also coated in a waxy substance called lanolin. That lanolin is like a rain repellent, water repellent. So mountain goats basically have a built-in rain jacket. Again, another useful thing to have
Can you take
in those
picture
high
of the
altitude
lion?
mountain environments and
Right there.
habitats.
Right
Their
there,
hairs
the
are also
bison
going to be
in
actually
front of
pretty
us.
small, smaller than you would think. And they're convex instead of
You're gonna
concave.
see it
That
really
means they're
up
kind of
close
curved
when
outwards
you-
instead of inwards.
When you pass it
And they
right
have
there,
a nice
baby.
grippy pad on the bottom
looks like
that acts like a
a rock.
hiking boot. So they're basically
Like a rock
outfitted
right
like
there.
they just went to REI for
She had a big head.
climbing trips. But nature did it all for them.
Oh my gosh.
And those special hooves help them to really maintain their balance on razor thin ledges way up high on the sides of those cliff faces.
Wala akong
Ugly,
pakialam.
ugly
They're really
head.
great climbers too, which is why they're able to live in those places that no human or few humans would probably ever dream of living in.
You got it, Bob?
She did it.
She's so near it.
So that bison out there,
Why is
he's
there
sitting in a
no more
wallow. And
nothing
I'm going
that-
to talk a little bit about that wallow. So he made that
So
himself,
far,
or
it's
another
like
one of his
hiding.
bison friends did, with
can
his big
barely
horns
see it.
and hooves.
They want to get
And he'll
up.
dig out all the vegetation from that patch of ground, roll around in that dirt, really cake himself with that dirt and mud.
Ew.
Not only does that cool him off on warm summer days, but it also acts like an insect repellent. Now, as he's rolling around, he's also going to be picking up plant seeds that have dropped from trees and from grasses, mostly grasses on the grassland, I guess. But he's going to be picking up those native plant seeds. And as that bison moves across the grasslands,
See, I told
wallows
you.
and more wallows, maybe it's time for him to shed that winter coat.
Just follow it.
Those seeds are going